So I've definitely had my ups and downs with the associated B7. I run this car completely on carpet, so if you're into the dirt thing, you might not want to watch it, or maybe you might want to. Rumor is there's been a lot of people, even at the team level, that have been unhappy with the car. I've seen at a club level that people that are just better drivers can just take a box stock car and still go out and kill me. They're always going to be fast, right? That's just how some people are. But a lower quality driver like myself, and probably a lot of you, are always looking for a way to, get these cars running better, whether it's through spending money, practice, or all of the above. Well, I think I found a really great solution for everybody, and we're going to talk about it right now. So I'm Chad. This is the Dorky and 40 RC channel. Let's talk about how to make the B7 faster today. First of all, huge shout out to all of my channel members that support what we are doing here on the channel. If you like what I do here on the channel and want to support me and help feed my dog and cats, there is a join button down below for as little as $1 a month. We would appreciate any of your support. Let's talk about this B7, and the ups and downs with it have really been up to me, just trying to find out a setup that works for me on my local club level tracks. I don't go to any big places or anything yet. Maybe one of these days we'll make some adventures. We're doing the oval racing thing, we do on roads, so we're always doing a little bit of something. But the B7 to me was very exciting when I got it, like it was to a lot of you. And immediately there's just something about buggies that we just like start throwing money and start throwing parts at these things. It's just kind of like an addictive one of those things. And being part of our one team and getting these parts that they are making for the cars to help lighten everything up, and just, in 99% of the cases, you're going to be getting a better quality part at a cheaper price than what you would get with many of the factory team options. And in a lot of these choices, you're going to be getting a part that is well above and beyond the quality that you would get from a B7. You just can't go wrong. So we got a lot of that stuff on the car here, but I know people like to do and purchase certain things, and that's just the way things are. Biggest thing with the car has been finding a setup, and we all go online and look at setup sheets that are going to work best for us. I saw a local club racer was running this setup here. This is Brent's 40 plus setup from the carpet champs that happened back in December, I believe, in Cleveland, Ohio. Ironically, one of the local tracks bought all that carpet and is using the carpet and the jumps and everything else. Now, they don't have the big expansive track, but it's pretty close. But the setup I have pretty much put on this car to about 95%, and we've made a few changes. And I have literally taken this car from pretty much undrivable in its last setup to throwing down freaking amazing laps and actually being able to make changes and feel the changes on the car, which is something that takes time to learn how to do. But man, it's been great. So let's talk about what are the keys to the car. First of all, J Concepts body, lightweight, get the weight down. Do you need this? I don't know, whatever. But there is some things, if we look on the setup sheet and everything, that are definitely going to change your car in the way that it runs. The first of all, we've covered before, is Brent was using the B64 front setup system. We've got your C-hubs, we've got your axle carriers, whatever you want to call them. And of course that changes like your camber link position and everything else. So that has been a huge change. I definitely was kind of a fan of the whole KPI thing, but it did lead to unpredictable steering for me on a small, tighter type of track. So having the 6.4 stuff up front has been a huge change. Taking a look at Brent's setup, there's a lot of other things that he has done. Granted, buying all of these parts is going to add up the price of the buggy, but it's just the way it is. That's how these buggies are. The setup is available on Associated's website, but the whole overall key to the setup is really a a longer wheelbase car that is a little bit wider and a little bit softer. I mean, really just making it easier to drive. You know, he's using things like 3-hole larger pistons, 1.6, 1.7. We've got thicker oils, 42.5, 47.5 in the back. He's using 1-up springs, green and pink. I have actually went down a step on each of them because the main indoor track that I run at is a little bit less grip. So I found that, like, you always want to run the heaviest spring that you can, but at some point, you know, you might break traction a little bit, or your steering just might not be there enough. I went down 2 steps and it was just too much, and so I went back up 1. So now I am actually running on reds in the front and running on the blacks in the back, which really are hard springs. So everything else that we got going on, we've got the -2 tower here, which he ran on his setup. One thing that he did not run on his setup that I saw that Associated make, and, like, you know, Associated decided to do this, it's probably a big deal, and it's something that they found out works. Whether it's for dirt or carpet, we don't know, because we get very sporadic content, and it seems like dirt racing is a little bit more popular here, at least to talk about, compared to carpet racing, you know, which is pretty cool. We got space here in America to run. Carpet setups, of course, are huge across the pond because they don't have big dirt fields to play in and all that stuff. But they have been actually came out with their own inverted rear shock standoff set, which comes with like this spacer to space out the actual shock tower, a more correct geometry when it comes to how your shocks move up and down in the back. So you get some new spacers, everything else, and they kind of talk to you about all of the stuff that's going on here. Now, I always tried to run inverted shocks, and not because for any reason, not because of a video or whatever, but I just feel that in certain situations on our track, like our wall ride, and that having the inverted shocks seems to make it roll over less and have like a little bit more consistency when it's in a more unpredictable situation. There's really nothing else that's super crazy on here. I mean, obviously there's different things, like he likes to mount his shocks here, he likes to run this there, run that there. But like I said, everything is just the overall geometry of how the car is set up. Now, he is running a super hot motor, which I'm running a 21.5 just stock class, so I need the car to just perform, which is why getting it down the minimum weight is very, very good for me. And having all of the R1 stuff is helping with all that to get everything down where I needed it to be. I always seem to have a little bit of an issue before running closer to minimum weight, just as far as like car handling and predictability, probably because, you know, I tend to overdrive or underdrive because I'm not a perfect driver. But it seems like having this setup is definitely more forgiving and allows me to turn better laps. Now, one other thing that we have been playing with here at our track is trying to find a tire that works more consistently, immediately, and actually is fast. And we've kind of settled on an older tire that is working really good. It is the Raw Speed tires. It's the Rewinds, and these tires are, I got, you know, they're amazingly fast. I mean, I've tested these things out. It was really great at the track the other day when the car was running so well that I was actually able to run through all the different tires. Now, we started the tire on pin swags up front and fuzz bites in the back, which is pretty much everybody's standard thing. On our track and on a lot of other ones, new fuzz bites will tend to fuzz up on you literally really quick. And, you know, your first couple heats on those will be kind of scary. You know, you're not going to be able to throw down the times that you want to. They get into a point where they are now, where they get broken in, they don't fuzz up, and they get decently fast. But these tires, I was able to literally glue up, throw on the car, and I didn't run my hot lap with these, but I ran my average fast laps throughout the entire day. The fastest tire was the Schumacher's, splinters up front, and the weird Azamis or whatever they're called that are in the back. The thing about them is that they're very weird. I wish I had them with me. The foams, even though I'm using the hard foams, are super soft, but they seem to still perform really fast. And if we take a look at my actual times that we had that day, in the A main where I ran the fuzz bites, I got 1 lap down and I had a hot lap, finished second. Had a hot lap of a 10.7 and a top 15 of an 11.0. We started today at an 11.0 hot lap and a top 15 11.4. That was on the fuzz bites. In round 2, we basically, all we did was again change the tires because I had already done the spring changes. So this is all tire changing stuff. So we threw down a 10.5 hot lap and 11.1, and that was with the Schumachers. And then in Q3, I threw down a 10.59 and an average of 10.95 with the top 15. And then, like I said, we ended up finishing second. So you can see super consistent results, which is what I wanted. And I hadn't raced buggies in about 2 months. So I got everything ready to go and just kind of sat here and everything else. And, you know, the car performed better than it ever has. I just love everything that's going on with it. I've got plenty of speed and power with like the R1 servo. I switched everything back to slipper clutch instead of eliminator just to make the car overall just easier to drive. It's locked down pretty much and just backed off a little bit. I am going to throw like the vented ends and everything on there. I have the R1 lightened spring cups and a top shaft in here right now, which works very good. I did go back to the 5-gear transmission instead of the R1 3-gear. Not because I didn't like it, but just because I wanted to set the car up like the 40 plus winners sheet, because, you know, we are dorky and 48 now. So if he's got it figured out, then that is what we're going to do. One great thing that even if you don't do anything with your buggies and buy, that I would recommend that you would get is replace your associated cups with these Schumacher cups. These things are so nice and easy to dial and hold their position, and they really hold on to the springs really good, associated springs or anybody's springs. And then the other cool thing that I really love is these J Concepts Ryan Mayfield. You can see them in there. They're like the red clip-on limiters. Instead of dicking around with your shocks and taking things apart in and out and all that kind of stuff to like limit stroke and droop and everything, it's just freaking great to have something that you can clip onto the outside. I know like pro people and stuff probably aren't going to do something like that, but for us regular club racers that just want to like enjoy our cars and throw some cash at them and have fun, works great. The R1 front metal upper mount here, like to mount the links and all that stuff, has been fantastic. And I got the little weight in there for the nose. I also am running a small weight underneath the servo here. Probably don't need that, and the electronics plate, but eventually with all the R1 stuff that we have on here with the drivetrain and all that kind of stuff, it does actually lower the weight down where we need to bring it back up. Even with like the thick wiring and everything for stock, you know, we're just pretty much where we're at right there. Diff is pretty good. It is probably going to need rebuilt. I've noticed lately, I don't know what it is, but it seems like the diff fluids that like we are getting lately, like really are breaking down pretty easy. And after about 1 or 2 race meets, quite honestly, when you tear your diffs apart, they're just nothing but like gray sludge. They almost have nothing left into them. So doing the 4-gear thing, 60K, it's just a good base setting. There's no sense in dicking around with anything else. I mean, that's the whole point of like having this set up in the car, is to just try to find something that is consistent, which it is, and then be able to try other things that will make the car faster. And when I tried my buddy's rewinds at the track, you know, one of the things about it was he didn't have as high of a glue job on them as I do, because, you know, like I said, I'll tend to overdrive into the corner, have a little bit more, you know, dual rate into the car probably than I need, and a little bit more endpoints. So I need the car to be a little bit more forgiving for me. So if you could see that my pin swags are glued all the way up around the radius here, you can see that, like with the rewinds here, what I did was just did the sidewall. And then I have another pair that I will glue a little bit higher on up into there, just to give me a little bit more of a safety margin, so the car doesn't get as tippy when I'm going into like our weird off cambered settings and jumps that we have, even though the track did get a whole bunch of new jumps, which is pretty exciting. Running the newest R1 4800 2S pack. It was the closest thing to Brent had on his setup sheet. He's running like a Reedy pack, of course, because he's got Reedy stuff. And this is the same 4800, more than likely, that everybody else is getting right now or has gotten. So there is no reason not to get these packs, especially at some of the prices that they have them at every once in a while. And then I see that they just came out with a lot more cooler R1 carbon fiber type of stuff and everything, if you want to bling out your car with even more of that R1 goodness. So overall, though, a little bit wider, a little bit longer, softer, more forgiving, but easier to drive, but drivable, and therefore faster. And you're able to actually work on your car, make slight little changes, and actually kind of feel and see what they're doing and get the results on the track. So that's it, guys. Try this out if you dare, and let me know how it goes. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace.